Hi, and welcome back to AI in 5. I'm your host, Simon Chris, and joining me today from Sydney is Nadia Lee. Nadia is an AI ethics advocate and also the founder of That's My Face. And we're going to be talking about parenting AI. Hey, Nadia, welcome to AI in 5. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you do some great work in the ethics advocacy space, but I really wanted to hone in on this concept that AI is either all great or all bad type of thing, and where you sit on that scale. Is
Well,
it even a valid scale?
I think that's definitely not a valid scale because nothing has ever been that simple. And I think the greatest hope lies in knowing that we are in the teen era of AI. So it's constantly changing. It's got its own mood swings and nothing ever seems to work in terms of putting the right guardrails. And that's why we panic and we think it's going to be amazing or it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But AI is volatile and relatively young in its applications. And if we think about what allows teens to finally find themselves, it's trial and error and time. And so in order to be a good parent of it, we need to exert consistent positive influence over this time that it needs to have and let it go through its trial and errors while setting clear boundaries.
Yeah, and that's an interesting analogy that I haven't heard before, but it's a brilliant one. If we think of AI as a child and we have to parent and correct and course steer and teach it not to stick its fingers in the PowerPoint.
Exactly.
So how should organizations start to go about that?
I think there are three, arguably four ways we can do it. And organizations are such a critical piece in that picture. So the first way we need to do it is like policy and regulation, obviously. So one thing I think we have to remember is that the tools have changed, but the crime hasn't. So the crime is still in the things that we already know, like in privacy or extortion or consumer fraud. So I think using existing laws and mechanisms of enforcement is a faster way to put the right guardrails for AI in place. And then obviously organizations, when it comes to corporate governance, I think we need to remember that nothing really works. Think of a house, for example, nothing really works without good pipes. And the good pipes is efficient and robust corporate governance. So establishing a good body, making sure that the principles and standards are in place and enforced, and that it's evolving as AI evolves, I think is really important. And IBM is a good example to look into that. And then the third critical component, which is obviously where I sit, is technology.
Yep.
And I think one thing that we get wrong about technology is that it's going to solve everything. Well, it ain't, Connor.
Yep.
And
amen.
Amen. And technology is there to enhance existing mechanisms of protection and preservation and not replace it. So, for example, in reinforcing copyright and content ownership, we already have logo detection and music detecting that there's music being played for over a certain amount of time, whatever. But there are mechanisms to, for example, enhance that, like watermarking and fingerprinting image and text, which has its own limitations and it's easily circumventable. But people are also lazy. So partnering with major providers of AI-generated content, I think, can actually yield meaningful outcomes.
Okay.
And then when it comes to user identity preservation, obviously where That's My Face sits, there are really interesting innovations in the space, such as biometrics and making sure that we can tokenize and preserve user assets such as their faces, so that we can make sure it's not kind of everywhere in deepfakes, for example. So these are there to enhance existing trust and safety mechanisms and processes, not to replace it.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I wanted to touch on that in the last minute or so. The work that you're doing in That's My Face, is that about you understanding what Simon Chris looks like and then going looking for that on, in fakes and pieces?
Yeah, definitely. And so facial recognition is actually really old technology, and people obviously don't want to touch it, and understandably it's risky because it's such a, you don't want your face to be owned by somebody else. But there are ways to do it in a privacy preserving way so that we can more easily protect it. And that's what we do. That's the work that we do.
Okay, for larger corporate entities,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
things
exactly.
like that, where
Exactly.
you don't want the CEO of Qantas or something being deep
Yeah.
faked. Yeah.
Yeah. And promoting crypto investment.
Yeah.
So we prevent
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right. Look, we're at time, but I always ask everyone the same question, and that
Mm.
is, what's your one tip for someone who's just starting their AI journey?
I think it's really important to get a general picture of where we are because AI, we've been on the journey for a really long time and it's changing every day and every week.
Mm.
So we actually discussed this, Simon, essential viewing. There are certain things on Netflix and there are certain things in YouTube, and just getting like a really good scope of where we are with easily accessible pieces of media, I think would be really, really good.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go. There's the tip. Watch more YouTube.
There you go.
Nadia, Nadia, this
Mhm.
has been a great AI in 5. Really appreciate it, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.